People of the world, welcome back to Send It Rising. I have mentioned many times on the show before, and listeners, you know that I don't believe in coincidences. I feel like we are planets orbiting in the universe, and sometimes the gravitational pull of two individuals brings them into physical space wherein incredible magic occurs. Our guest today is going to absolutely blow your mind. I mean, we've had all sorts of incredible guests, folks that have survived the Cambodian genocide, people that have overcome incredible suffering to have incredible success. Our guest today is right there among the best of the best. Can you imagine Fiverr reaching out to you, expressing interest in your business? Just imagine that. That's pretty incredible stuff. Can you imagine winning the Google Accelerator for a company that is only about 2 years old? Can you imagine explosive growth because you've taken this 1,000-year-old concept of a bazaar and applied it to not just freelancers, but also influencers, which, ladies and gentlemen, you don't need me to tell you, is the present. It's not even the future. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Igor Fedenkoff.
Callum, thank you so much for such an enthusiastic introduction. And gravity-wise, I'm about to come crashing right into your world.
Yeah, let's go. So first of all, as I mentioned backstage, I'm so happy for you because you're living a dream that many people have, but you only get there through hard work, through probably multiple failed, I don't failed, but you've learned a few things along the way. So I'm super curious as to what it's like now because you had mentioned some of the numbers backstage. It was hundreds of thousands, right, of folks that have
Mhm.
signed up on Brybe.
Yeah, we have close to 125,000 self-registered users and 5.5 million discoverable. So
Exactly. So let's talk about that. A year ago, what were those numbers?
9,572.
Yeah, there you go. So explosive exponential growth. How did you see that growth? Was it through marketing, a combination of marketing and people loving the platform, people telling other people about the platform? What caused that?
I think it was a general synergy of all of the above and then some. My In my previous life, I used to have a club in Los Angeles, and you know how the clubs get promoted. It's word of mouth is the best way. None flyers, stickers, none of that. But the same thing that happened to Brybe as we started growing in the very beginning, we enjoyed some really, really nice organic growth. What happened when the pandemic hit is we were quick enough to add another population to the platform, that of freelancers. And I think about 60% of that growth is they are responsible for, because everybody who is working remote or who was looking for something to do on remote basis, they jumped on newer platforms faster than the older platforms, because with the old platform you end up at the very bottom of the list no matter what the search is, because you're lacking reviews and stars and everything else. With us, we were wide open for everybody, and basically until today, still everybody has a very decent chance to appear in the very first lines of the search for any influencer or freelancer gig. So, to sum it up, between organic growth, word of mouth, adding another group, another cohort to the platform, and running just sickeningly expensive but really really fun advertising campaigns throughout the year, um, that brought us to today.
Isn't that interesting? Sickeningly expensive. When a lot of the folks, who haven't experienced something similar to what you're experiencing, think about the growth. I don't know if they envision like a UFC championship fight, but that's what it is. Like you
Mhm.
don't get explosive growth like that unless you're willing to experience some nausea.
Very much so. And the funny thing is, advertising is a lot of times something that entrepreneurs either cut or plan for the future, because you need to develop your product, etc., etc. Well, first, the product is you, and second, with no advertising, you'll be nothing. So we actually took some cuts on development in the beginning to try to get the name out, and the advertising was very simple. It was a black page that said "Bribe" on it, and put in your email. That actually worked out like an explosive lead magnet, because people didn't know what Bribe was, but they all wanted to know.
Mm.
So that was a good start. Then throughout the year, we actually enjoyed raising a financial round, so they gave us a little bit of a financial freedom to boost up our ad budget. However, um, one of my co-founders is a professional marketer, so we were able to come up with the strategies that not only cut the ad costs, and despite sometimes the really high conversion cost, that's why it was really sickening. Um, we were able to start narrowing down and bringing it down almost like tenfold down to conversion cost that we wanted to use. And then, of course, on the flip side, we started using our own influencers, people that sign up for the platform. We hired them to promote the platform they're on, and that completed the circle.
That's what I was about to say is you have a competitive advantage as an influencer first marketplace to use the initial influencers that are benefiting from the platform to increase the profitability of the platform that they benefit from.
Exactly.
Um, I did a TikTok just the other day about how on social media, at least in my feeds, there are all these people that are constantly talking about the hustle and the grind, and you gotta, he's got a hustle mug. And I was like, look, dude, and while I appreciate the hustle, like to me, it's been beaten to death. Everyone is constantly talking about the grind and the hustle. And what I am promoting nowadays is how smart and nice, but mostly nice, multimillionaires and folks that are doing this kind of work are. And that doesn't get enough play in my experience, right? So I think there's this notion that, like Shark Tank or Gordon Ramsay, where he's calling some, what I mean, this super angry, like no emotion, strict, almost evil caricature of what a multimillionaire looks like. A lot of people, in my experience in the entrepreneurial world, they think that's what the behavior that got those people there. And in my experience, is the exact opposite. Because if you're gonna get funding, Igor, right, like you did, you were probably very nice and polite to the people that you got the funding from, and you're nice to the influencers that work for you, and you're nice for the employees, and you're nice to all these people. You know what I mean? And so I just want to remind folks that politeness and niceness goes a long way in growing a company.
I'm with you 100% because, first of all, this is something that you do with your team. And even if it's small or it's growing, people of a kind are attracted. Birds of a feather flock together. I like idiomatic expressions, and rising tide raises all the boats. So if you're in a good place and your team is in a good place, everybody's driven to see the project succeed. B, as the project succeeds, everybody else who's affiliated with you is actually going to enjoy that rising tide. But on the flip side, I think strictness, organization, and good management skills should not be confused with aggression and being, a food Nazi. So while you are, for instance, in the beginning, we had a lot of our team members work on remote. Obviously, it takes huge discipline, A, on the management side, B, on the employee side, to work remote. So we had to come up with ways to not only control what the work was done, because whether you want to yell or scream or drop the mic, they're at home in the comfort of their home. They will turn off the video, turn off the speaker, and you're screaming into the nothingness. But to motivate them, we actually ran some like fun stuff, virtual coffees, and talked about work. And I ran some really incredible statistics. I think a regular person working in the office does work for 2 hours out of 8.
Absolutely. Yep.
Uh, and this is your 8 hour must be there. When you're on your remote, you may be looking at a 12 to 14 hour long day, but the productivity due to that goes up to 5, 6, sometimes 7 hours
Mm-hmm.
when you have the person focus on what you do. And we've been blessed with a really cool team now. We actually have gone through some people that just weren't looking the same way as we did,
Mm-hmm.
but um, things are moving along quite well. And I think running a company by responsibility for what you do, correct KPIs, and positive reinforcement has shown to be a much better way for Brybe than if otherwise, I was talking to my inner Slavic, yelling and screaming and throwing things like
He's in there. He's in there
yeah,
somewhere. You're like, no, shh, shh, no.
he's well hidden. well
He's
hidden.
well-headed. That's right. We
Towards the end
all
of the month, it appears a little bit, but
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's yeah, look, I mean, it's the Eastern philosophy of the Tao, right? It's the path.
Mhm.
We all have a path, and it's easy to judge the paths of others. Like I will find myself watching Magnus Carlsen play games of chess. He's the current world chess champion. You probably know that. And he'll make a move, and I'm like, why'd he do that? I'm an idiot. Why am I criticizing Magnus Carlsen? Like, who do I think I am? But my mind will jump to conclusions about what I think the right thing is. And I feel like a great part of leadership is quieting that mind, quieting that reactivity. Another good example is we're buying this property, and my real estate agent called me up in a panic, right? Because some issue with the loan was occurring.
Mhm.
They're both friends of mine. I get my mortgage lender on the phone, and the two of them are going at it for like a good 4 or 5 minutes, and it's getting heated. And I'm just deep breaths, and everything's fine. And it's, you know what I mean? I have faith in the universe, right? And then 6 minutes into it,
Awesome.
yeah, 6 minutes into it, it was just miscommunication. Everything's fine. So any explosion that I would have had absolutely no positive effects whatsoever on that. And so my question to you is, how zen do you have to be in order to do this well?
Well, I've been married for the past 10 years, so I'm very well trained, I think, at taming many different situations. I have two beautiful kids, but they're growing and they have opinions of their own. So coming from one family to the other family, from work to home, and the other way around. I think one of the biggest things about me is I believe in another concept, actually, Eastern concept. It's called ikigai, and that
Oh,
concept it comes from Japan, and it teaches you that depending on the environmental influence of environment, other people, of the work that you do, of your family, of your own characteristics, and the intersection of that, there's a perfect you. And
mm.
by that perfect you, it's not what you would like to be, but it's what you can be as the best version of yourself. So, for instance, I really advise you guys to watch a documentary, Jiro Makes Sushi. It's about the Japanese chef
Oh,
who,
that's such a good one. Is that the dude who like he perfects the rice and he perfect
yes,
and
yes.
it's like $900 just to look at the sushi?
No, 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 no. It's actually quite affordable. He is in a subway in
Okay.
Japanese subway. There's a 10-seater restaurant, 10, just
Yeah.
10 people,
Yeah.
and he's 85 years old and he has 3 Michelin stars. So the guy is the epitome of that because he started as a apprentice, and obviously he's done a lot of things to support his lifestyle because you have to be an apprentice for 10 years before you can
Mhm.
even start making something.
Mhm.
Um, but as a sushi chef, as aspiring sushi chef, this is what he wanted to be, the best sushi chef he can be. Not the
Mm.
restaurant owner, not the network of restaurants owner, not the conglomerate, not the, brand manager, some just the best sushi chef. So I think that concept translates into any kind of business. In our particular case, we want to be the best marketplace that we can be to tailor the needs of the buyers and the needs of the sellers while commanding them that we try to automate it, we try to make it easy on them, we try to make it as secure as possible. No guarantees, obviously this is a cursed world, but um, we try to give them the calm or the zen that you mentioned in the beginning of your question about something that can be incredibly stressful as to how to find an influencer, who is the influencer, what the hell is influencer marketing, how to do it. In our particular case, the more habitual you make it, the easier it is to make a change in your life. It is a habit for them to go to Brybe, press, a couple of links and order something for 5, 20, $30. It's going to be an easy process. While let's say if you work with the agency and then you need to work with the agent and tell them what you want, and then they keep asking you questions about what color this, what orientation that, your brain explodes, and all of a sudden, instead of getting some kind of a help for what you need, you're the one doing most of the work while somebody else just basically cherry picks the case that you need to use. So we flipped it. We flipped it, and this is what we've seen over the past year. in our own development, in our own company, small little habits in development, small little habits in marketing, small little habits in interpersonal communications. And I'm fascinated by that. I watch it as a game, but you can see how bigger, much more productive habits on our side and more financially beneficial habits of our clients are developing over time. That's
Mm.
why a lot of platforms in our space have just shut up over the first year, two, three. Um, we basically intentionally were not trying to do a geometric progression growth. We enjoyed a fantastic growth on the user base, but the faster and higher you go, the harder is the fall sometimes. So
Hmm.
what we're trying to do is that leveled approach to the business while people can look around and then come to Brybe and realize that this is something that's going to help them in the short and in the long run.
Yeah.
Sorry for the lengthy explanation.
Oh no, I'm all about those lengthy explanations. I think so. I'm dabbling in being an influencer now myself, and I was delivering the same message over and over again, talking about social media news, and then I finally got on my longboard. Are you familiar with an electric longboard?
Yes.
All right, so I'm on my electric longboard and I'm shoeless because I'm a big hippie, Igor, and I
Let your hair
pan.
out.
Yeah, let's go. And I point the camera at my feet, and then I do a little switch on the board, and then I pan up to my face, and I'd say the same stuff I was saying before, but now people care, right? So I'm learning these little influencer hooks. You know, it's like do something in the first half second of the video that makes them go, like, what's happening, right? Like pose like 7 or 8 questions. Who is this guy? Why is he barefoot? What's that board he's on? Why where is he? Is he in Vegas? Why is the backdrop changing? His hair looks pretty interesting. Why is he in a suit? And why is he talking about Google losing a lawsuit in Australia? So you hit him with like 9 questions, like right
That's
off the
awesome.
bat, and they have to process all that information, you know?
I love it. I think this is what in advertise back in the day in advertising you always wanted to get an attention getter right away. I think somehow people just walked away from it and went to the story format. And this is
Mm.
what we're seeing with our influencers right now is you have to catch the eye of the viewer in the first no longer 15, like
Oh,
3 seconds,
half a
maybe
second,
2
1
seconds.
second, yeah.
We used to be goldfish, now we're goldfish on caffeine and Red Bull. So by the time the person looks at the screen, if they're not interested, they will swipe up or down or whichever platform they're using. So this is another thing that we try to do with our company and with anybody who we work with. We're creating a knowledge base, which is going to be called the Bribe Academy. Also, our
I
Bribe
was
blog.
just going to that is so funny that you went there. That was my next question. All right, keep going.
I think whenever you have any kind of tool, like IKEA, if you get that thing, you get the instructions and you get the tools how to put it together.
Mm,
And half the time I don't look at it, and half the time I have to take it back apart and put it back together while using the booklet.
right.
So um, we are using that IKEA approach with Bribe because education, especially in this particular field, is extremely important, especially right now, especially for the reasons that governmental agencies and regulatory agencies are going full speed into influencer marketing and freelancer economy, because huge numbers are done there by people, huge numbers in dollars, huge numbers in any currency in the world. So obviously, regulatory agencies are jumping on that particular bandwagon.
Mhm.
And well, we pride ourselves. We have developed relationships with lawyers, with developers, with travelers, with payment processors that are eager and willing to share the hacks or to share the latest facts about what FTC is doing or what guidelines have been released and whether you can or cannot use this or that hashtag, or if you're running some kind of a campaign, how it can backfire. And I think it's really important, like you and I spoke in the beginning of this. Our bread and butter are small to medium businesses and small to medium influencers because they're very numerous, very various, and very eager to do stuff. And their engagement rates are high, and their following is highly engaged. So you're looking at a phenomenal market. But with any kind of a market comes the responsibility and the taxes and everything else. So we take it upon ourselves to try to educate our users as much as we can, whether it's brands on what type of campaigns they can run, or influencers, what type of campaigns they can accept and how they need to get paid, and whether they can receive that bottle of shampoo for free or not. A lot of it is extremely, extremely important.
Mm. I love that. Yeah, because the economy is changing. I feel like with crypto, we're going to have transparency unlike ever before. I think it's going to be very difficult given the blockchain of all transactions for people to hide money like they used to. And that's going to be fascinating. And then getting to a point that you and I discussed before the show began about Ukraine and governments trying to shut down the ability of the population to use the weapons they have in their pocket, which are the mobile devices, right? Live streaming. TikTok shut down in Russia, but they'll go back and forth and whatever. Um, this particular conflict, this war, I think more than any other is going to have, like you mentioned before, terabytes of video evidence of what transpired. And the lies from authoritarians no longer will hold any weight up against the vast, wealth of video footage that we have. So, are you ultimately an optimist that these changes in technology, the blockchain for a public ledger of accounting, and the video evidence we'll have just from the population all taking footage will make the world a safer and better place?
Let me start with crypto. We are now the only freelancer influencer marketplace right now in the space that is of this kind that is doing payouts in crypto. We started in the beginning of the year, and the goal of that was to use decentralized approach to finance. We couldn't even dream of the unfortunate situation that is happening right now, but with, for instance, Swift being turned off, so money movement is basically stalled on a lot of east side of the world. And despite the fact of whatever may be happening, there are a lot of people working on that side. There's a huge amount of freelancers on the former Soviet Union territory. There's a huge amount of influencers, bloggers, etc. Now they're unable to get paid for what they do
Wow.
due to something that's happening. So us adding crypto payouts to that and using the decentralized approach, I think is definitely going to be a very, very positive thing for our users. Plus, they can travel, they can be wherever they are, and not be restrained by the geo limitations of this or that financial services provider.
Yeah.
On media, and like we laughed about this, and I'll bring this up again. The user generated content now, the tendency is to make it as less professional as possible, as real as possible. So
Mm.
there are a lot of, and I'm not talking about the witnessing of real events, I'm talking about just advertising campaigns and videos that influencers make. They look allegedly very unprofessional and very
Mm.
live and very, hey, I just got out of the shower and I filmed myself. Well, we've worked with a lot of these guys, and they literally have teams of people running makeup, running lighting, running video editing, trying to make a very professionally made production look extremely unprofessional. So
Mhm.
whether that's going to be, that goes both ways. That goes into the general increase of the quality of the materials we have online, but as well as you have to understand what you're watching, just like the news, or just like what you tell your mother as opposed to what you tell your friends. Both of them are real, but with a slight different angle. So the same thing here. People have to be able to develop their own. Not they. We don't need fact checkers. We need to have our own brain. This is a good starting point to figure out what kind of content we are consuming. And I think right now the content consumption is at its highest that it's ever been in the history of humanity.
Mhm.
And for many reasons, um, I think looking at such an incredible quantity of content makes us just puts us in the perception mode.
Mm.
And when you perceive so much, eventually your brain explodes and your filters turn off. And this is where all of a sudden there's this direct channel into your brain for all and any kind of information to go through.
Mm.
So we have to be very careful and have to develop our own personal firewalls based on our beliefs, based on our upbringing, based on our education, based on our life experiences. Um, these filters are extremely important. Whether uh, this little plague of the 21st century is going to be also its blessing, I think it will, absolutely. And just like any other vehicle, planes take us places, but sometimes stuff can hit the fan. Cars can take us places, but welcome to LA. I drive past like 5 or 6 accidents every morning.
Hmm.
Uh, Motorcycles, the same thing. Microwave, the same thing.
Right.
You have to understand that whatever tool you have is the tool for that particular function, but you cannot
Mhm.
replace the rest of your living needs for that. When it gets to us being able to use this to bring the true information up and right there, right at that particular moment, I think this is enormous. Because, like I mentioned to you before the show, I was working on an idea of an app that would allow common citizens in the street to tape maybe a crime in progress, but have it fed automatically into the cloud for LAPD. That didn't go really far, but I think it was a great idea. But it also tells you my take on it. When you have eyes and ears everywhere with this technology, you are able to get a decent amount of information on what is going on. On the flip side, it's always listening, and right now it's probably gonna give me an advertising for some kind of a
Ah!
surveillance equipment. I don't
You know what? I think we will see that. I think it may be a government extension of a police department where they're like, download the LAPD app. And then, because essentially, for those folks that aren't interested in owning a gun, I think they want to take out their phone and have it be a gun, basically, right?
Yeah.
To be able to, because when the phone, say for example, you pull out your phone, you click the app, or even like set it up where you can just dial some number on the security page and it opens up the app. Like get it out as quickly as possible, just like unholstering a gun. When you point it at the person that's committing the crime or attacking you or whatever, if it's good enough to do like retinal verification in the future. You see what I'm saying? Like if the camera's strong enough to take a picture of and to get like an eye print. So even if they're masked, even if they're, you know what I mean? Where later they will be held accountable. If that even exists as a technology, then people are gonna, they just know they're gonna get caught. Like I just feel like being a criminal the old way nowadays is almost impossible. Like everyone's got a ring phone. You know what I mean? Like there's so many cameras watching you from every possible angle. Are you gonna drive away? Where are you gonna drive? There's like 12 cameras that got your license plate coming in, and there's 12 on your way out. Like where are you gonna go? So people are obviously still breaking into houses and this and that, but man, it just seems almost impossible to get away with it.
Minority Report, great movie.
Yeah, Tom Cruise. 10:58. We only have a couple minutes left. I know you've mentioned Brybe, and for the listeners that are listening now, and for all of you, iTunes and Spotify, youtube.com/Send It Rising, that are listening later. Holy smokes! I mean, if you want to get inspired to do some incredible things, hopefully you've taken away a few bits of advice from Igor. I want to make sure that you have a chance to one more time mention why it is people should go to Brybe, pitch your company, and also, if someone wanted to reach out to you in some way, shape, or form, how would they do that?
I'll start from the end. Igor Fedenkoff, I'm sure I'm in the description of this podcast. Find me on LinkedIn. That's the best way.
Mhm.
Or on Telegram at Brybe CEO. Brybe itself is brybe.com. Love the name. If you want to hear the story, let me know. Very similar to that of Virgin. But our marketplace allows for anybody who is interested in finding digital services or digital promotions to find it through freelancers and influencers all over the world. We are in 137 countries. Um, to be able to run the promotions for your business or your product, or create a logo, create a website, and then have the influencers run the promotion. So, this is going to be a one stop shop. It's very budget friendly. The cheapest campaign is $3, I believe. The most expensive one is a lot more than that. But At the same time, it's friendly, it's highly automatic, and we try to do as much as possible to keep the transactions secure. You don't pay until you're happy with what is done, etc. Brybe is one of the coolest platforms out there right now, and I'm gonna keep it this way. So
Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the drill. YouTube.com/Send It Rising. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify after the fact, you know we love you. Thank you so much for doing all that. Check us out on TikTok, TikTok.com/Send It Rising if you want to see my bare feet on a longboard. Special thanks to Igor today for joining us. What a great interview. Igor, drop one final bit of wisdom for the fine folks.
remember, if you're starting anything in your life, relationship or business, the product is not what you're trying to do. The product is you. Be the best version of yourself. Everything else is gonna come flying. Just a
Beautiful.
matter of time.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next